Hey everybody, and welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast, episode 10. 10 episodes deep. Double digits, baby. And for this episode, I have a very special guest and dear friend, Will Edwards. Now, Will Edwards, aside from just calling him an insanely amazing human being, does almost everything. He is a talk show host, a podcaster, a producer, an actor, a book author, a fashion consultant. I mean, the list goes on. He does marketing with charity work. He does so many amazing, incredible things. And I'm really excited for a lot of you, if you don't know him, to meet and listen to what he has to say on this podcast, because it really was insightful and hit the spectrum on a lot of different areas. And the book of the episode is going to be the book Will wrote called What Men Do Wrong, From Dressing to Grooming. Will has been a huge inspiration in my fashion sense, pre-pandemic and me growing my hair out all along recently, but in terms of the suits, shoes, socks, pocket squares, which he also makes. He has a lot of good practical advice for any man who is looking to step up their fashion game and feel good about themselves, but do it within a budget and do it smart and efficiently. So What Men Do Wrong, From Dressing to Grooming by Will Edwards. You can get that on Amazon. And without further ado, here's my conversation with Will.
And then I never know when it starts recording, but I think we're good right now. So Will Edwards, my friend, welcome to the Sam Dever Podcast.
Hey, man. First of all, thank you for doing it. I've been thinking about this podcast since you said, hey, do you want to do the podcast? And I thought to myself, I'm like, I don't really get to see Sam that much, but I consider him one of my very, very good friends.
Oh, likewise.
So thank you for being a good friend of mine, in my mind. I don't know how you feel.
Well, no, that's what I don't know how you are, because I know you know a lot of people. I'm finding that there's a lot of friends I have, you being one of them, even though we don't live in the same geographical location. We don't see each other that much, especially with the pandemic. A lot of us didn't really, but when I talk to you, when I see you, it's like when I just saw you at, I think the Rio a couple years ago is the last time we saw each other.
Yeah.
Your podcast you were doing. So, but it feels fine. It feels great. Good to see you.
Yeah, that podcast was great. You did give me a drink that do you remember the drink that you gave me?
Yeah, it was the smoothie from Whole Foods or the juice.
Yeah, that was just not great. I'm going to be honest with you.
Hey, nothing personal.
It just could have been colder. That's all I'm saying. Okay, I'm done. That was my only gripe.
I was going to let you know. I had a buddy out here in LA. He listened to that podcast. And it's funny because as I'm getting back into podcasting, and I could talk podcasts and shows with you all day because you are a guru.
No guru. No guru.
You've done a show or two in your day.
Yes, that's true.
But he said he gave you a compliment. He said Will's show, what he loved about the show, the Have a Drink show you were doing, is he loved the format. He said it was very clear, concise, perfect time limit, 30 minutes. So yeah, it was he said he enjoyed listening to it very much. You made it, were a great host and had a great structure to that.
That's fantastic. That's great to hear. I don't like listening to marathon podcasts, but if the content is interesting and you can grab my attention, then I'll listen. But that's just me. So great. Yay.
Well, maybe I'll just springboard off kind of what you just went there with the podcast, because you've done all types of shows and interviewing and stand-up and all these different things, and you also do podcasting. What is it? Could you maybe take me through like your view on podcasting, maybe things you like about it over doing other things, and maybe things that are disadvantages as well?
This is going to, spoiler alert, everyone, put your kids away. You've been warned. I'm about to spring load here. So the truth of the matter is that I like doing podcasts. I just don't listen to a lot of podcasts. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, guys.
But go listen to your podcast, right?
Oh, please, listen to my podcast. What's race got to do with it? It's on every podcast platform. Just go and listen. It's a weird thing, but I will say the same thing. When I did the Will Edwards show, which was Vegas's only late night variety talk show, I didn't want to watch it.
Really?
And I don't think I think it's just, I think I'm broken. I think it's just, I don't want to hear myself again. You know what I mean? Like, I experienced it live. I experienced it. I don't have to re-experience it.
Mm.
I think that's what it is with me.
Do you think that that's interesting. Do you think that helps you? I don't know if the word better is the right word, but do you think that makes you focus more on the actual anatomy of the show as opposed to like putting on a show? Like you're actually engaged with people, curious. Whereas if you're always looking at it, you may be doing things thinking already ahead of time. This is what this is going to look like, or
Yeah, it is an interesting thing. I learned doing interviewing people is that, and especially because I myself I'm an entertainer as well. So when you're a host, you have to find the balance of being interesting and interested. And it's a very, very thin line between the two because it's very easy for a large personality to overwhelm the listeners past the guest. You know what I'm saying?
mm.
And then it's also, you could also be a little, not driving the ship, and the podcast is all over the place, or the interviews everywhere. So you really, I learned being a host is that you have to find that medium of being interesting and interested at the same time. It's not easy, and not everybody can do it.
And that is going to be a podcast promo clip right there. That's some knowledge right there. Now, and man, just going back to the Will Edwards show for a second. What a fun show that was.
Man, I missed that show. It was a great show. Six seasons. So much fun.
And that is Las Vegas's only late night talk show host. Or
I don't know how that could be.
I don't know either.
Like, this is the entertainment capital of the world. Why is no one doing a late night talk show? The people that come into this town, it's easy. Oh, look, Katy Perry is going to be at the Resort World. Let's get her on the show and promote, her residency. I mean, it just seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it either, because you would think as many people flow through that city. I mean, same with like LA, New York. People are going through these places all the time. Like, but maybe people just want to party that hard. Like maybe they're like, their manager goes, "Hey, do you want to go do the show?" They're like, "How long is it going to take?" "Only an hour and a." No, we're good.
No, I'm going to the strip club. I'm done.
Yeah. Unless you come to them at the Spearmint Rhino, then maybe we'll have something.
Jeez. Yeah, it's just odd. It's odd, but the Will Edwards show it's on YouTube. So if any of your listeners want to check out the Will Edwards show, so we did a traditional late night variety talk show where we had musical guests, we had interview guests, we did comedy sketches. If you ever saw the show live, we had a game show segment where you could win casino gifts from my mom, which was a big hit. People loved getting like knives or Tupperware that said Texas Station on it or something. I don't know.
Yeah. It's funny you brought up Texas Station. That's where we met.
Is it really?
Yeah. Yeah, you and I got introduced. We've told this story before, I think, but Mel Dot, her name, she knew me and she knew you, and we were both at this networking event, or maybe it was Santa Fe Station. Now that I don't know, one of those. It was off Rancho somewhere. And she goes, "Hey Sam, hey Will, you two should meet each other. You two both have a show. You two should be on each other's show." And you and I are like, "Yeah." And then I know you get hit up for requests all the time, and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, man. Yeah." And then, but you
don't know anything about each other. Like, yeah, let's do it. It's great.
But you brought me on your show, man, and that was really fun. I was really a good introduction for me to see how like a real studio type show is done, and you guys did a brilliant job at it. So
yeah, I can't take
accomplishment.
Yeah, I can't take a lot of credit. I had a fantastic crew that did that show. So those guys, I nod to them. I just came and put some clothes on and invited people to come out. That's it. Oh,
Well, and you do a great job at it. And I guess it's funny because my agenda, well, not agenda, but the topics, we're kind of going reverse here, but that's fine.
ooh, okay, let's go reverse. Let's
We're
do
going
it.
reverse podcast right now.
Let's break some rules, some podcast rules.
And of course, you've done other projects and venture. I mean, it's endless how many things I could name you've done. I got to say something about yours. I think you are hilarious.
Oh,
I have, and I'm
Thank
not
you.
just saying this because we're talking right now, but I have been to your stand-up multiple times when you guys were hosting stand-up in Vegas, which I thought that now that I've been out in LA and seen the amount of comedians out here and this, that, and the other, what an awesome thing you were doing back then too with the it was We Comedy Show, right? Or was that
We funny comedy.
We Funny Comedy Show?
Yeah.
Like bringing comedians, giving them a shot, but then you as the host also would do stand-up as well. And I can't tell you how many times where, I laughed at the other people, but I was definitely laughing at you.
I guess I should write you a check then. I'll send you some money.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that. I'll send you. No, it's funny because that show. Have we ever talked about how that show started?
I don't think so.
So I was doing the Will Edwards show at the time, and someone, people kept coming up to me and saying, "Oh, do you do stand up?" And I'm like, "No, I don't do stand up." And everyone's like, "Well, all the great late night talk show hosts do stand up. You need to do stand up." And at that time, I was basically, helping on a different show. It was like finding people and recording them and putting them on TV, so to speak. It was called Vegas on the Mic. It happened at like the oldest dive bar, Money Plays, which is not there anymore, unfortunately. But I did it as well. Anyway, so finally I went, all right, that's it. So one of the comedians that was on Vegas on the Mic with Will Edwards was a very funny comedian. I thought he was hilarious. And so I approached him and said, "Hey, listen, I want to start a comedy show." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Let's do a comedy show. Let's do a stand-up comedy show. Let's find a venue and let's get started." I did not want to do comedy like everyone else did it. I didn't want to go to open mic to open mic to open mic until somebody said, "Oh, you're worthy of standing on our stage and doing that." So I just started the show, and we did it for 4 years. Almost 5 years, like
Wow.
4 years in like 10 months or something like that.
Wow.
So almost 5 years in Las Vegas. And if you don't know Vegas, anything that can last more than a year is senior and is stellar. So we did it. We loved it, and I kind of miss it, and then I don't miss it, and then I kind of miss it, and then I don't miss it. Like I'm always thinking of new jokes. But I'm not doing comedy right now.
Now you're always doing it, maybe just not on some platform in front of people.
That's true.
Pre-recording, you had me dying laughing before I started recording this. So
My
you still got it.
my shower walls are like, dang, yo, that's funny as hell. That's most of it happens.
And you know what I loved about that show so much is it was I said this about the first show, but that show truly was an awesome experience, especially for me during that age of my life, because I was over the club scene. I was over staying all night partying. The show was a Friday night it was on, or Saturday night?
Friday night.
Started at a reasonable time. Wasn't like 8, 9, something like that.
8 p.m., yeah.
Yeah, lasts a couple hours. You're in a comfy, if you want to drink, that option is there. Invite some friends. You have locals and tourists alike there. It was $10. $10, yeah. You get to see different talent, and then afterwards, it was a huge networking party up on the rooftop of that place in downtown Vegas. And man, I now that I think of it, those were great times.
Those were great times. I agree with you. That was fantastic. I had a great time, man. I'll tell you the truth. It's fantastic. I don't know what else to say. It was great. Will I do it again? Is that what you're thinking? Will I do it again? I can see it in your eyes, Sam Dever.
If you do that show again, I promise you I will be in attendance coming.
We'll see. I've had an itch to produce some stuff, so we'll see what happens. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, Sam. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time commitment, but we'll see.
Well, and that leads me into, one thing I really admire about you and I've always respected is, I mean, your talent obviously, but your work ethic, and beyond those things though, you're an executor. Like you're not one like, and we've had this talk with both of us, but like you just don't go, oh well, maybe we'll. It's like no, you're like, I'm gonna do a comedy show. That's why someone's wait, what do you mean? Like really do it? Like we're really gonna do it, or just talk about it? Like you've put together so many things successfully, and I've learned to do this too. Like, and sometimes projects just run their course too. Like with certain projects, and there's certain times I just want to keep doing it, but then it's like, no, let's do the next thing. Like, what's the next thing? So, could you what motivates you, or how do you work? Like, how does Will Edwards' mind tick?
Don't get in there. Don't get in there, Sam.
Maybe we don't want to go that deep, but how?
You'll never get out. Have you ever watched Rick and Morty?
Bits and pieces. Are you like that?
It's like that's me. That's my brain. Just different universes happening at the same time. I like to be a man of my word.
Hmm.
I like to say I'm going to do this thing, and I like to do it, and it brings me joy to do it, even if no one knows. You know what I'm saying? Like even personally, I'll say, okay, well, I need to work out today and do at least a dumbbell workout. No one else knows, but I do it, and then I feel better about myself. So when I look at projects and I get into stuff, I just look at the end goal and I work backwards from there. So it's like, oh, I'm going to do a show. How do we get to that show? Oh, here are the steps that I need to take to get there. And someone said to me, a mutual friend of ours said something to me a long time ago, and I hold it dear in my heart when I'm doing projects. He said, it was Kelly Schwartz, by the way.
Great man.
And Kelly Schwartz said to me, if you don't have to be a professional at every aspect of whatever you're doing, you just have to be good. And if you could be good at just about everything connected to it, you will never have to worry about anybody taking their time or not getting your edit done or anything of that nature. And so I just started to learn. I learned editing, I learned cameras, I learned I wrote, I did every aspect of everything. And then I just produced. And that's just kind of how it went down. You know what I mean? I didn't just sit back and say, well, I have to wait for this guy to have time and whatnot. I think we hamper ourselves to some degree when we say, well, I want to do this thing, but I can't do it if I don't have the perfect microphone, or if I don't have, this thing or that thing. When we did Let's Grab a Drink with Will Edwards, that podcast that you spoke about earlier, I had a little thing that I bought, a little connector that I bought from Amazon. There it is.
I bought it after you showed me.
I bought it and I just plugged it into my phone, and we sat and we talked. Great sound. It was quite good. But that was just simplifying everything. You know what I mean? And so if you can break down your project or the thing that you want to do as simply as it can possibly be, I think you'll make it happen. You know what I mean? I think you'll make it happen.
Dude, you are dropping some gems today.
Oh,
it's getting hot in here. No, you're so right. I totally align with that, because, and I've fallen into that before too, but yeah, I like to call it, and other people call it analysis paralysis. When you're like, oh, I really want to do this when this is here, or when I have this or that. It's like, just get the ball rolling. You will attract people that want to be involved when they see you're like steering the ship. Like,
and it's like this. So some of the things that I do too. You mentioned, everything has its own course, right? Mm-hmm. So I consider myself a content just machine.
Yeah.
If you came to me and said, hey, Will, I want to do this thing. It's about a black guy and a white guy. Da, da, da. I'm like, boom, 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 boom. Here are 4 different ideas that you could do. But then I think to myself, all right, well, I have the idea. I put it in the universe. The universe is going to simmer it, put it on the pot, put it on the stove, and then when it's just right, it's going to move from the back burner to the front burner, and we're going to go.
Yeah.
Right? Because everything, one of the things I learned, especially about creating, is that you can't force it. You can't force creativity. It is the one force you can't force. You can force everything else. Go ahead, push it, force it, da da da. Da. But everything's going to happen in its time, and I believe that. You know what I mean? I believe that. I keep myself open so that I don't miss it when the time presents itself. You know what I mean? So I think that you got to just keep yourself open.
Wow. I know. I came on here to do this podcast with you, but realizing it's like I'm just listening. I just want to keep hearing you talk because that's so. Because I'll just talk about my personal since the past year, the pandemic, like all that. A lot of people, especially when the pandemic first happened, it was, well, now's the time to do this and this. Logically, I agree with that, but at the same time, there was a lot of serious shit going on. It's like maybe I don't really feel like writing a movie right now. It's like,
Sure.
and I was telling someone on another podcast, I realized with me, there's times when I've been the busiest is when I'm creating the most. And I realized it's because I'm interacting with the world more. I'm talking to people. So I really love what you said there. Like, you can't force it, but I'm open to it. And same with this, when I just wanted to get this up and going again. I knew in the back of my mind, like, yeah, that'd probably be cool to do. But I wasn't feeling it. But
Sure.
all of a sudden, you feel it. And then you act upon it and just it's this crazy energy, you know.
And all those weird obstacles that you thought beforehand, like, oh, now I got to reach out to people, now I got to set up my microphone, now I got to buy that, all that stuff goes away.
Yeah.
Because the time is right.
Mm.
You get it, and you align to that time, and you're just like, you know what, let's go. I said to someone the other day, they were asking me, hey man, you're gonna do some stand up again? You're gonna do a show again? I said, you know what, I want to, but I'm not 100% feeling it right now. So I'm just gonna wait. We'll see. We'll see.
When I see that Instagram post of Will Edwards doing stand up, just know I will be coming to Las Vegas that weekend. And if it's even during the week, I will come during
dropping everything. But it was similar with the new podcast I'm doing now. It's called "What's Race Got to Do with It," and it's an interesting podcast because it wasn't the title was my idea, the content a little was my idea, but to do the podcast was not my idea. So White Rodney, who's on the podcast, and I don't call him White Rodney because I'm racist. He's the only Rodney that I know who is white. I have cousins and uncles who are named Rodney, who are obviously black, so he becomes White Rodney. So White Rodney says to me, hey, listen, I want to start a podcast with one of my staff members. He owns a local business here. With one of my staff members, he's a Mexican guy, blah, 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 Hispanic. I think it would be great. We have really interesting conversations at work, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, all right. So of course, I don't operate that way, right? You give me your information, I ponder on it, and I really didn't want to do it. I'm going to be honest. I was like, oh, God, commitment, the podcast, the day, Lord. So
multiple people involved.
People involved. The more people you involve, the more complicated it gets. So he says to me, he reaches out. You don't have to do it if you don't want to, but would you be willing to do it? So, and he came to me because, of course, I had done 2 podcasts already, and I said, okay, I'll do it. I brought in a professional and a guy who's done it before, and he set us up with what equipment to get and all that kind of stuff, and it's been a pretty good podcast. We're talking about race and about life and about things that we don't always talk about, and it's a revelation to me sometimes because you're hearing the voice of a guy who's in his 40s, and he lived in Michigan on a farm you know what I mean? And here I am. I'm this little black kid who lived in Jersey City, New Jersey, all of his life, and so it's taking that information that he has in my growing up and his growing up and how different it is. It just shows you that differences are important, right? It's I think that we get into this weird. Well, now we're in this weird thing of oh, don't let's cancel everything because I don't like how you said it and so on and so forth. Well, I think that you and I, our differences made us friends. I didn't live where you lived. I didn't have experiences that you had, but I was very interested in the things that you've experienced.
Mm.
And I think it's important, and I think that that is how you grow as a human being, is by finding people that don't have the same thoughts that you do and whatnot. So I'm rambling. I'm rambling.
No, I just want, well, and I admit I haven't listened to all of the episodes of your podcast, but I did
Don't
listen
worry.
to some, and it's very well done. Again, well, of course, if you do something, you're going to do it all the way. You're going to do it right. And I piggybacking off what you were talking about, what I loved about it most was it was so refreshing just to hear people having an open conversation without judgment.
Sure.
On what you said, like now, if I say this wrong, I'm going to be forced into Exodus
Sure.
from this
Sure.
platform. It's like no, let's talk about it, because at the end of the day, we are all human beings. If you cut our skin open, we're all going to bleed.
Yeah,
red.
it's true.
So,
Well, Sam, I'll tell you, one of the episodes we talked, it was like grumpy old men talk about transgender. That was one of the episodes. And what was great about, in my opinion, what was great about that episode is that no one that was on that podcast had anything negative about transgenders or people who are non-binary or people who identify as something other than they were born. But we were like, hey, do me a favor. I'm freaking 52 years old. Give me a minute to try to figure all of this out. My intention isn't to be to be mean or to call you he when you're a guy, but you identify as a her. It's not my intention to not see you as who you feel you are. But I grew up in the 70s. You know what I mean? And the world was very different back then. And so, you just learn, and you got to be willing, first of all, to say, well, if this guy says that he identifies as a woman, you got to call her a she. It might take me a minute to get there, but it will. I'll give you an example. You ready?
mm-hmm.
So a local comedian here in Vegas, when I was doing We Funny Comedy Show, he made an announcement that he identifies as a female and that he wanted to be called a female name,
Mm-hmm.
and so forth, which is fine with me. Let me just tell you something. Do you be happy with who you are? Do it. I don't have anything on it. But we were in the dressing room, and I'm like concentrating so hard on not calling her a him.
Mm.
It was very difficult. The introduction, I was awkward in introducing her, and it was just weird. Like I was chatting with him, and I was chatting with her, and I said, hey, back in the day, I saw you do some stand up, and I thought, man, I gotta get that guy. Man, I gotta get him. Oh, damn it. Man, I gotta get her. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't think that. I think that we have to be patient with each other during this time period, because it's very different. It's very different than what we all know, and I think that there's more love out there than hate. Is what I'm saying. Anyway,
100%. And I feel what you're saying. It's not that a lot of people hate certain groups or have anything against it. It's just there's been so much conditioning to if you call a he or a her or she and him, it's just natural. So I think it's just important. And that's what I liked about your show is just having an open dialogue with that and saying, hey, like it's just not a snap of your fingers. I'm going to like I need to
Yeah.
understand this and explain this. And I may fumble this for a little while, but I want to let you know that it's not out of disrespect or
No.
me not caring. It's just, it's just kind of a mind shift type of thing,
Truly is. Truly is.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. You know what I mean? I think that I think the more optimistic that we are, the better we are as human beings to getting to a place. You know what I mean? We talk on the podcast a lot about race. One of the last podcasts, we just released our season 4 premiere, and it talks about the title of it is it's white people pumpkin spice season.
It is. Based upon Instagram.
And so, we like to play with those kind of things, those stereotypes, and be silly about those things, because truly, to have a problem with a person who has a different race or ethnicity with you is just plain old ignorant. We all want the same thing. I want to live peacefully. I want to make money so that my family is good and I'm good, and we can do the things that we want to do in life, and we can advance. And I think that everyone is in that same position. You want to have your space. You want to be, you want to be able to do the things that bring you joy. But then you have people who don't want that. So you really have to do something that I set out to do when I first got to Las Vegas, and it came out of having a really bad relationship with somebody. It was a partnership. I created a movie with this person, and he and his wife, they were just fantastic, but they were a little toxic. They were very, very toxic. They tried to get me to leave my wife for the company, and
I've never heard this one.
I know I don't talk about it much because it's a time in my life where I didn't see. My eyes were not open, and I wasn't being as aware of the toxicity that was these two people. And so after that experience happened and I separated from them, I said to myself, you know what? I'm only going to be surrounding myself with like-minded people who are positive, who are doing things in their lives, and it's helped me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Do you want to go to and hang out with a group of people that are the same as they were in high school?
Right.
No. I want to hang out with people who are like, yeah, man, I'm doing this thing. Like you. I for your all of your listeners, Sam Dever is a scholar and a gentleman, everybody. And he wrote me a letter, and we corresponded back and forth, like old-fashioned letter. Like,
yes.
No, it wasn't a text, it was an email. He put it in the mail, put a stamp on the envelope, put it in the mail. And the thing that I admire about you is you say, I want to do this thing, and you do it. And not everybody has that inside of them. You know what I mean? I have people that I know who say a lot of things. They have a lot of content, a lot of ideas, but they're not great on execution. And I think you're fantastic on execution, or we wouldn't be here talking today.
Thank you so much for saying that. I have the same sentiments for you. And when I went to my mailbox and saw a letter back from Will Edwards, I'm like, wow, we now have a true written correspondence happening right now. I even asked you to do the podcast through the letter initially.
You did. You know what's funny? You're funny.
Like asking a woman, will you wait for me? Like, I must travel for 6 months, but will you be there when I return?
I'm going off to war, but I love you.
Yeah. We're going to podcast.
We're going to podcast. I promise you. But no, it was great. I remember as a kid, like getting mail. You ever get mail as a kid? Oh,
Yeah, it was great.
oh my gosh! You're like, somebody thought of me. This is fantastic. Anyway, that's how I felt when I got your letter.
Wow.
Thank you for
Thank
you
you
know,
for being open to receiving.
thank you for reminding me that the simpler things in life are really the big things in life.
100%, man. And that's one thing I've learned, especially this year, is, I'm done chasing the bells and whistles of life, because I really, even when you catch them or you get them, they're nothing and they go away. Just like you just realize, like, I just want real dope relationships, work with really creative people, and just learn. And that's what I'm tying everything, the past 10, 15 minutes of what we've been talking about. That's the beauty of knowing so many different humans of different races, religions, origins, beliefs. It's like reading books, but people.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
that's how I've never traveled the world before. I would like to someday, but I'm sure you have too. Met so many people from so many different places, living between Las Vegas and LA. And it's like, man, my perspective of growing up in a small town in Illinois, that's a good perspective, but there's a billion other perspectives. So hear people out on things like,
Sure.
you know,
Let's not cancel everybody so quickly. Let's find out why they have a different opinion. I don't think everybody else knows, but I spent 10 years in Scientology,
yes.
and about 2 years of that was traveling and doing events all over the world. And that is a experience that changes your life. You know what I mean?
Right.
Here I am, this little black kid from. I always think of myself that way, a little black kid from Jersey City, New Jersey, and now I'm standing in the middle of Taiwan. What? You know what I mean? Like, what's happening right now? But I did experience it, and it was a fantastic experience to go and see other people and see other cultures and realize that the world is very large, and there's so many other people out there that are contributing, and the idea that you're out there, you're traveling, and you're just soaking it all in, and it was a great time.
I'm just checking this because now I can't help myself. Now that we're on the topic, I think your Scientology story is fascinating. We could talk probably for 5 hours and do a whole piece on this, but could you maybe take us through the short bullet point version of your experience, or just pick and choose what you want? Maybe like some
Sure.
things you learned and kind of
Sure.
shape some people's perspectives.
So to be fair, it's a cult. That's all I got. No, I'm kidding. It is probably the best cult in the world, because you yourself right now, wherever you live, can walk into a Church of Scientology. They will greet you. They will be nice to you. They will invite you to whatever's happening. Da, 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 and it feels fantastic and it's great. And but the truth of the matter is that there were some very positive things about being in Scientology, and some things that I've learned that I still use today. But there was some dark stuff, as you go along. And I don't know if but I was in the SEA organization for many years, and it's just a no nonsense kind of a place. It's if you liken it to like the Catholic Church, it's like the priests and the nuns and so forth, and you get sent on missions to handle things and whatnot, or handle people, and my experience was mostly positive, but there was quite a bit of negative. I my just from that traveling, I lost my first wife to a divorce, which was not great, because the church doesn't think about that. You're making us money is kind of their thing, so you're going to keep doing this, And I know you have a wife back in New York City, but this is Scientology and this is how it works and this is the Sea Org. So you just do it. So while I did get to see a lot of the world, I lost a wonderful person that was in my life. At the same time, I gained a wonderful person in my life. So, there's just so much emotion wrapped up in those 10 years that it's very hard to encapsulate it into a few minutes.
Right.
And keep in mind, I was black in a very, very white church. There wasn't a lot of us out there.
Well, and that's and you're right. I mean, we could go on and on, but when I learned that about you, because I've never met anyone that's ever been a part of that, and when I've actually went and we had a conversation about, I was just fascinated because I never would have guessed in 10 million years that you would have had that experience. And I think I shared an experience I had too. A lot of people may not have guessed, which that'll be we'll film that at the Cosmopolitan. In
Vegas. We'll do a different one.
We'll do a different one for that. But it really made me, I don't know the word, just that more interested in your story and seeing like, man, this guy knows some stuff, because it's like to go from a world that's completely different than what you were doing at the time. It's like, wow, like the perspective you must have. You're incredible.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're in this organization, you're in a bubble. You are not allowed to watch television. You're not allowed to read newspapers or magazines or anything that could possibly say something negative about Scientology. So you're basically in a bubble, and all you're being fed is the propaganda that Scientology creates. And they have an organization within the organization that feeds you the news or of what they want you to know. And coming out of Scientology, you're like, you have no, it's like you've been living on a different planet. Nothing that was familiar is familiar. I mean, it's 10 years. That's a long time.
It's a decade.
Yeah. So you come out and you're like, oh shit, I don't know if I can put this on my resume. Mm-hmm. Or I don't have a resume. What am I going to do now? So there was all of that. So it was really quite about, reinventing ourselves as human beings. We had to reinvent ourselves. Like, there's a thing that happens in Scientology where if somebody denounces it or runs away, they get declared a suppressive person. And when you're declared a suppressive person, no one in Scientology can talk to you. No communication, no contact, no nothing. Even if it's family members.
Wow.
You cannot contact those people, because then you will, eventually become, you could be swayed to come out of Scientology as well. And when I got out of Scientology, the first tenet, I guess, that I created for myself was I will never allow somebody else to make my decisions. You will never have that kind of control over me to make me decide who I can and can't associate with or be around. Mm. And I live for that today. It's been 15 years, and I am very strongly in belief in that. Without your own sense of who you are and your belief, you're basically nobody. You're no one. I was a cog. I was just another chess piece, so to speak. I wasn't a person. I wasn't a human being. I wasn't, they didn't care about my dreams. They didn't care about my marriage. They didn't care about my well-being. It was just about Scientology and the advancement. And that is the main focus there. So you realize, well, I'm actually a human being. I actually have beliefs. I don't agree with everything, and I have the right to not agree with everything. But in Scientology, you can't. You gotta agree on everything that they tell you.
Wow, there's so many things I got to be mindful of because we don't have 5 hours. I guess if I had to pick one quick thing, is it the book? Is it called Dianetics? Is that the name of the book?
Correct.
Because I have heard as well that the beginning stages, it's actually some amazing self-improvement and things you can do. And see, I'm one of those like personal growth junkies. I'm like, well, maybe I should order that book just to kind of check it out. But then they kind of rope you in a little more, then a little more, then a little more.
I don't think there's anything wrong with reading it. You know what I mean? I don't think there is. I mean, if you read it and you decide that that's what you want, well, that's what you want.
Right.
You know, I'm only telling people what my experience was. And my experience is that it's a cult. Somebody else's experience might be, it's the best thing that ever happened to me and I feel better, blah, blah, blah. So Dianetics was the first book that Ellen Hubbard wrote. And it was basically a book about the mind. It is a difficult book to read. It is very, very hard. It's very big. It's very long. But during Scientology, I became a Dianetics counselor. And it does have some merit, right? So the idea is that we all have experiences in our lives, and those experiences shape who we are as we get older. But some of them hold us back, right? So let's say, for example, a short example is that you get bit by a dog as a child. The rest of your life, you're terrified about dogs. So what you do in a Dianetic session is you go over that incident multiple times so that you start to see it for what it is, so to speak, and you remove all the emotion from it. So every time you repeat it, you're looking for different things that are happening. You're looking for different colors. You're looking for, did the dog have a leash? You're looking for all these different things that are now settling you, so to speak. So you're not then fearful of dogs anymore. So that's kind of
Which, I mean, honestly, hearing it, like, oh, well, that doesn't sound like such a bad thing.
But it is similar to other things. It is similar to psychotherapy and somebody going over just, hey, tell me a little bit about that thing that that had happened, and you cry a little bit, and then they say, okay, well, tell me about it again. How'd you feel? How'd you feel during that time period? You tell them again. This time you don't cry. Okay, great. Tell me again. And then this time you don't, So I just think that there's, I don't know. There's some merit to it. I don't think you have to join Scientology to get into it, but there is some merit to that.
You've seen The Master with Joaquin Phoenix and Philip Seymour Hoffman. Have you seen that movie?
No. I'll tell you why I didn't want it. There are just, I don't know. There are things that are still kind of raw a little bit. Even though it's been 15 years, there are some things that are still raw. So I just like, you know what? I don't want to.
Don't want to go back there. Yeah, I don't.
Don't want to get into it.
And I guess, first of all, I really appreciate you being open with us, telling us about this. And I got a couple more things I definitely want to touch with you. And I guess moving on from the Scientology, when you're out and you're totally out of it, now you're on your own and you're like, well, what do I do now with my life? Did you think I want to get into entertainment? I want to start making shows. I guess what was the catalyst for you to break through? And I know you've always been involved in the arts in some way.
Sure.
But maybe what was that first thing post that time where you're like, yeah, it's time to create stuff? So
something is going to happen right now that should never happen during a show. My phone is about to die. I'm going to grab my charger, sing to the people. I'll be right back.
No worries. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Will Edwards' birthday. That was over a month ago. Happy birthday to you. It's funny because I grabbed my. I actually thought a couple times like, oh, I don't need my laptop charger; it'll be fine. For like the first one I did, it starts going dead. I was like, yep.
I didn't think about it.
No worries, no worries.
Let's see here. Let's just make sure that we're all good. Okay, we're good to go.
Yeah.
So I guess I in college I found theater
Mhm.
and I loved it, and I just went bananas over theater. I quit my job and I became a resident assistant so that I could have my room and board paid for and I could do theater all the time. I became the president of the honorary theater fraternity, and it was just such a great time. I really got to know who I was and what I wanted to do. And then when I got out of college, I had 3 acting gigs in a row. So there was, paid gigs, thank goodness. And so it was pretty good. Um, so I always thought I was defined by that. I felt like entertaining was the thing that made me feel the most of who I was. I got out here in uh, in Las Vegas, and I got into an acting class, and it was a sham. But you know what? I met some very good people during that sham. I met people that I still know today.
Mm.
And the guy who helped me start the Will Edwards show was in that class. And we decided we need to make content of our own because at that time there was nothing. If you were just an aspiring performer, there was nothing in Las Vegas for you to do or anything.
And social media wasn't that big yet. Like people
It
weren't
wasn't.
creating. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there was YouTube, there was MySpace. That tells you how old I am. So one day we were watching Oprah or something, and I thought to myself, man, she really connects with that audience, so far away. She's sitting so far away, but there just seems to be such an emotional connection that she has with her audience. I would love to do that. And one day I went to this guy, his name is Henry Clark, and I went to Henry and I said, hey, I want to do a talk show. And we had been doing some videos here and there for some businesses and stuff like that. So then he said, okay. And I think if Henry had said, no, that sounds stupid, I don't think we would have done it.
Mm.
But Henry said, okay, what are you thinking? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's talk about that. And that's kind of where it came from. And then it was like, well, if I can produce this, I can produce anything. And I've always kind of been that way. I mean, I kind of grew up that way. You know, uh, my mother and my dad, she was pregnant with me during her high school years, like her last year. So she didn't graduate on stage because she was pregnant.
Mm.
And but my mother always said, you can do whatever you want in life, as long as you're happy and you're not hurting yourself and you're not hurting anybody else. I don't care what it is, just be happy. And I never thought, especially as a black kid growing up, I never thought that I had any boundaries. It never dawned on me that my race, as I was growing up as a kid, was less than anybody else. And I think because my aunt, was an engineer for the telephone company. My uncle was an educator. My grandfather was a minister and a preacher in the church, and a pillar in the community, so to speak. So you see all of these examples. And my mother was just fantastic. She sacrificed a lot for me, and we kind of grew up together. So you see all of those things, and you're growing up with all of those things, and you just realize, as I looked back on it, never did I ever feel that because I was black and because I was black in America at that time, that I couldn't do whatever I could imagine. And so I started. So I've published 2 books. I've done the Will Edwards show. I've done the comedy show. I've done a few podcasts. I'm about to, I work at Three Square Food Bank. So I am merging my passion for television and projects into some television shows for Three Square Food Bank. So I'm going to do a little thing called In the Kitchen at Three Square, cook up some meals and that sort of thing. So I'm excited about it.
It's a perfect transition to. I did want to talk about Three Square Food Bank because I have watching from the social media channels. It does seem. I want to know like exactly what you do there, what's going on, but it does seem you're able to use your creativity and executive producer skills in that realm for a greater cause. Could you kind of just take us through what you do there and what types of things are happening?
So I am the marketing outreach specialist there, and that job is a bit of a hybrid because I organize and manage Las Vegas Restaurant Week. It's a lot of water. Be careful. I organize and manage Las Vegas Restaurant Week. Three Square has a culinary council made up of culinary professionals in Las Vegas. So I cultivate and oversee that council. And then I am also over anyone who wants to do a fundraising event for Three Square. I'm basically over that. They're called third party fundraising events. So I'm over that as well. But you know me, I'm going to create, and if you give me the door or the window to go through, I'm going to bust through it. I'm just climbing. I'm just flying through it. So I've created several things. Right now, I worked with the Grand Canal shops inside the Venetian, and they created a e-cookbook, which you can purchase for $10, and the proceeds go straight back to Three Square. It is threesquare.org/e-cookbook, and it is a beautiful book, and it is some of the signature dishes of some of the most amazing restaurants at the Venetian in that book as recipes, and there's cocktails, there's entrees, there's biscuits. You want to make a nice biscuit, and and then there's desserts in there. I also created with my team, of course. I created a thing called Quick Bites for Three Square, and fortunately enough, Uber Eats comes around and says, "Oh, what is this thing?" And I say, "Well, let's do Quick Bites for Three Square, fueled by Uber Eats," and that's happening now in Las Vegas. If you go on to Uber Eats and you look at the banner, it'll say Quick Bites, has Three Squares logo. You click it, and it will give you all of the restaurants in your area that's participating. And whenever someone orders from the Quick Bites menu, Uber Eats donates their commission to us. And to say thank you, they give you $0 delivery cost.
Wow, it's a good deal.
It's a great deal.
It's
right?
a great deal.
And it's a win-win. You can't lose on that deal. So that's the kind of things that I've been creating. And one of the great things is I'm about to push Three Square onto television by creating a show called In the Kitchen at Three Square. So we have a beautiful demonstration kitchen in the lobby of one of our buildings. And I thought, let's get the Culinary Council to come out and create meals that people might find at a distribution. Right? Create meals with these items. So you're going to get chicken one day, you might get potatoes, and you might get onions, and you might get squash or something of that nature. So we asked the chef, create something and show these folks what they can create with the stuff that they're getting. Just being in need doesn't mean that you can't have a fantastic meal,
And I just, as you're talking about this, you're creating just such great awareness through these different campaigns. Because for myself and others, Three Square, it's for families that are in need, right? They need food and
So it's Three Square Food Bank is Southern Nevada's only food bank and largest hunger relief organization in Southern Nevada. We service 4 counties: Clark, Lincoln, Nye, and Esmeralda counties. And so we provide food for them. And we do it through a network of partners in the community. So organizations, religious organizations, maybe like Boys and Girls Clubs and so on and so forth that have pantries. So we basically supply them with the food, and then they then give it out to the community. During the pandemic, it was very different because people were out of jobs here. I mean, they closed down the strip. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell is going on? So
Yeah.
they closed down the strip.
Crazy.
And you knew it was serious when they did that. Like, casinos are not going to not make money.
They're the last to go.
The very, very last. They're like, no, we're going to hang out. But they closed it down. And so, you had executives from these casinos who didn't know where their next meal was going to come from. So we had to distribute directly. You probably may have saw it on television or something, but we did a lot of direct distributions right to the end user. And we're still doing that today.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I really hope that the show that gets produced in the kitchen, will there be a host?
There might be. And his name might be Will Edwards.
Yeah.
You know me. I'm not going to produce anything that's not going to have.
Like, well, I'll do this, but I'm in it.
Yeah.
No, that's incredible.
It's just aligning my desire to still entertain, but also entertain and be a community servant as well, so to speak.
Well, I think you're such a great example of someone who, and I have this talk with artists all the time. I think a lot, and there's nothing wrong with this, but I used to be of this mind frame too, of like, I'm going to be this type of artist, and if I'm not this, I failed in life, or not, this, that, and the other. And it's like, you never know the things that you did, what they're leading you to.
Sure.
I know me personally, I've been involved in things that led me to the next thing, which led me to the next thing, which led me to the next thing. And even doing a Zoom podcast with you right now, I don't know where this is going, but it's like, and it's not that you give up other things you're doing, but it's having that open mind to say, hey, I'm going to take these skills that I've acquired in these other places. I would even argue I use it in my job that I do with pharmaceutical sales. It's like talking to people and promoting things and this, that, and the other. And it's like, I love how you're able to take that energy and put it into something that's truly giving back to the world, and not just the world, but your local community there in Las Vegas, and doing a really kick-ass job at it. Like, not just like,
I really think it's important to find the thing that you love and the thing that you want to wake up in the morning to do, and I think that means that it means a great deal. You know what I mean? I think for me, I'm excited to go to work. It's always well, what's next? What's going to happen today, or what are you going to create today? And to have leaders that are interested in what you're going to create and how you're going to create it, it's vital. It's vital.
Yeah, it brings me to the book that you know of, Awareness.
Yeah, thank you for that book, by the way.
Oh, absolutely, man. Well, it's just what really has changed my mindset too is when you quit saying I have to do this and you say no, I get to do this, and how every day truly is an opportunity.
That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. Something else. I just had a birthday last month. Thank you. And I turned 52. And you think, man, I'm getting just old. Holy shit. Body's breaking down, things happening. But so I saw it somewhere, and I wish I could remember where I saw it. But they said, don't be upset that you're getting older. Not everyone has the opportunity.
Wow.
Because there's a lot to it. Yeah, you're going to have some aches and pains and so on and so forth. But, you get to make new connections. You get to explore more things. And I always say that your age is not a number. Okay, that's the cliche. Age is not a number. But I think that people's ages really depend on how they see themselves in the world, how they see the world, and then how you interact with those in the world, because I pride myself on having a 22-year-old kid who is a good friend of mine and a 65-year-old man who's a good friend of mine. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
totally different perspectives, totally different places in life, but I get to learn from both of them.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to grow old.
Wow. Well,
And I'm not going down. I'm going down fighting, by the way, too.
Yeah. Well, my friend, I honestly would love to keep going, but I'm trying to keep these around the hour mark or so. And there's so many other. I mean, Vegas. I mean, we can talk about that. I look forward to coming to Vegas and seeing you in person here soon.
Well, tell everybody to buy my book.
Oh, well, and I do that in the intro, but we're going to do it here too. You are a book author. Woo-hoo. Maybe give us a quick blurb about this book, What Men Do Wrong, From Dressing to Grooming, because letting everyone know that has seen me in suits and other types of attire, this man right here was a huge inspiration for a lot of that, teaching me a lot about fashion and men's grooming. So could you, even though my hair is all grown out right now, but tell us about that book real quick.
So really quick, it is, I spent like 5 years in men's retail management, and you see a lot of people coming in and out, and people don't know, what their shoe sizes are. They don't know, what things are called. They don't know a lot of things. So this book I created with those people in mind, and I created 6 different types of men in relationship to how they dress. And then the rest of the book talks about how they can help themselves or how someone else can help them to elevate themselves. Because I believe that every man is just one thing away from being better than they were. Just one thing. Could be a haircut, could be tailoring, could be shining your shoes, could be buying nice leather shoes that's going to last you a long time. And so that book talks about a lot about that, about the mistakes that we make as men. And I'll tell you something, it goes further than just the book for me. With my friends, one of the things that men don't do is we don't lift each other up as much as we could. Women do it all the time. Girl, you look great in that dress. Oh my God, you're going to kill it. Blah, 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 so on and so forth. But we don't do that as much. And it's become my personal goal, especially with my circle of friends, to say, you're handsome, or you look great in what you're wearing, or hey man, you're killing it today with this thing. And I think that our fear is, oh, he's going to think I'm gay because I said, his pants look great or his ass looks nice. I don't give a fuck. I want my friend to feel great about themselves. And I think that we've come to a place where men should feel good about who we are and how we look and that sort of thing. So I promote that. Positivity between male friends.
I'm all about that, man. I hug my male friends. I'm very, it's like, there's all these stigmas, like you have to be tough and you got to be this. It's like, no, man, he's rocking an awesome suit. And especially when you start dressing like that, heck yeah, hey man, you're looking good. Like,
I talk about in the book as well, is that once a man, let's take a man who doesn't usually dress up, right? Once he dresses up or puts something different on that he'd never worn before, and one person says, wow, I like your look, or I like your outfit, that's it. Done. He is in.
Hook, line, sinker.
Hook, line, and sinker. That dude is going to try to find that feeling again and again and again. And it's more about you as the individual rather than other people. You know what I mean? It's about how you feel about yourself and how you want to project how you feel about yourself onto others.
See, now there's a whole other, because you've made pocket squares and I've worn your pocket square. There's so many things you do. A couple of gems I want to share with people that you personally have taught me. And I may have heard them other places too, but I know you have personally told me. One of the main ones when it came to fashion was, it's not the brand you're wearing. It's how it fits on you. It's the tailoring. And once I learned that, it was kind of when I learned the video, it's angle over effects. Like, it was like,
yes,
you can have a $5,000 Armani suit, But if that thing isn't tailored to you right, it's going to look terrible. But if you go get a $200-300 Men's Warehouse suit and it's tailored nice, it's going to look great.
Listen, you can buy a suit under $100 and you take it to a tailor and they tailor it to your body. Now you have a custom suit that just cost you $130.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't even have to. I have problems with Men's Warehouse, by the way. That's I think they're a ripoff. Don't go back there. So there are just other places that can give you more bang for your buck, I say. And so find those places because they're out there. You know, I take my clients here when we go when they say, "Oh, I need a suit." I take them to the Perry Ellis outlet store. Why? Do you ask? Because they have different versions of suits in different sizes. So they go from slim fit to a modern fit, and everything in between. So you can find something there, but when you find it, take it to your local tailor, get it fixed up, make it look like that suit was just made for you for a fraction of the cost it would cost you to buy a Men's Warehouse suit. Right? You can put a $500 suit next to a $100 suit, and no one would know the difference if it was tailored, unless you told them.
And I forgot you do consulting with it. I see you just had a huge list of everything. So okay. So you're telling us go to like a Perry Ellis outlet store.
Yeah. Go to an outlet store. Listen, I don't buy a lot of stuff regular price when it comes to clothing. I'm going to Burlington. I need a blazer. I'm going to the clearance section. It takes some patience because it's, and you can't go in there thinking, oh, well, I need a blue suit. You can't. You go in, you think, I just want to see what they have and I'll pick up something. I have rules for myself, which I think that it's great to do. My rule is at Burlington, I do not buy a blazer over $40.
Why is that?
Well, it's because I have a budget for what I purchase, and we talk about that in the book as well. Is that you pace yourself, right? If you're buying a new wardrobe, you don't have to do it all at the same time. You don't have to have $6,000, $5,000 to buy everything. But if you put it on like every payday, I'm gonna buy another item that goes with the stuff that I already have in my closet. So yeah, I mean, the book, I didn't write what I'm about to tell you in the book, but it really was part of what fueled me, so to speak, was that I didn't, like my dad didn't show me how to shave. He didn't show me really how to dress. I mean, I grew up in the black church, so you dress, to go to church and stuff like that. But, he didn't tell me what I could use if I had razor bumps or, if my skin is dry, what should I do about that? Or my feet smell, how do I handle that? Like none of that was taught to me. So I thought if I never knew about some of this stuff, maybe there are guys out there who could benefit from it. And that's why I wrote the book.
You lead me to a whole other related to that realm. Well, two things. How important is it? Because I feel this is getting lost, that young men are taught certain things at an age, especially as this technology is just infiltrating everything. And here, Timmy, take the iPad and, may not being taught some of these things at an early age.
I think, and I'm going to be a little dramatic when I say this, but I think that men are lost. You know what I mean? We're depending on your parents and how you were raised, some of us are trapped in racism, sexism that is generational. We're trapped in I dress the way my dad dresses. You know what I mean? Like we're trapped in religiously I believe what my parents believe because they believe what their parents believe, and I don't really know what I believe. We are trapped in double standards. The expectation that a man doesn't cry or doesn't have emotion or doesn't have any feelings or can't express those feelings to someone else. I think that it hinders our growth as human beings, and you can't be better if you are constantly hiding the things that if you learned would make you better. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so I just think that we've been sold a bill of goods, and it's not very good.
Does that come from insecurities too?
I think it does. You know, I'll be honest, man. I have a lot of body insecurity. You know, over this pandemic, I gained weight. You know, my just before it, I was 200 pounds, and it was the largest that I've ever been. So you know, I don't go to pools and the beach and things of that nature, and I'm not gonna, swim at your pool party or anything of that nature because I have my own insecurities that I'm working with. You know, I do racquetball 3 or 4 times a week. I work out at home. I do, if I'm not doing a dumbbell workout, I'm doing, 100 push-ups or something of that nature. But I have insecurities, and I think that people look at men like I will look at you, let's say for example, and I think, man, this guy has it going on. He's handsome. He has he's a good job. He has a vehicle. He pays his bills. He has to have it all together. Maybe you don't, and it's okay. It's okay not to have it going on all the time. You know what I mean? And I think that we kind of get caught up in it a little bit, that we lose ourselves, or we don't take care of ourselves mentally and emotionally, and I think that's an issue. And I think that's why I do what I do. That's why I say to my friends that, you're a handsome guy, or a great shirt, or a fantastic pair of jeans, or where'd you get those shoes, or I do the black people compliment.
What's that?
The black people's compliment is like, oh, where you going looking like that? Oh, okay. All right. I see you. I see you. Who you trying to impress? Oh, okay. All right. But I just do those kind of things because we don't often hear it.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And something I'll add to that. Well, first of all, I definitely don't have it all together. And then, you know what I've realized? No one does.
No.
Nobody does. And that's the trick. And that's the one thing about social media. And I won't even get into this realm to waste our time online dating and other things. That's the negative of all these things, is you can portray whatever you want to people.
Sure.
And the consequence of that is it's hard for the brain not to interpret that as your reality or their reality. And it's just not true.
Yeah.
And what happens too is people shame people. It's like, oh, you got to have your shit together is a thing. I'm like, no one. There's multi-millionaires and billionaires out there who are nutcases and and they're very unhappy.
And the truth of the matter is that you're spending so much of your time pretending to be that online persona when you're missing out on genuine connections and communications with people and stuff with, and things with friends and so forth. And you're just running around, going to a club or hanging out so you can get that perfect selfie to tell people that you're so great. But it's okay not to be. And it's okay to admit it. And it doesn't make you less of a person. It does not make you less of a man. If you get so frustrated that you cry, who cares? I want to cry right now.
Let it out. Let it out, brother.
But I just think that those things are it just shows you over the years how much we're influenced not only by family and how our dads or uncles or whoever is our male figures have been raised, but you have some people that don't have male figures in their lives, and they're being raised by the media, by social media, and I don't think a lot of of great moral points and growing up stuff happened. I was talking to a friend of mine. He's an older guy, and he said, "Yeah, when I was coming up, my dad drank a lot, but He showed me how to fix a car. He whenever he went out to do something manual, he'd take me and show me how to do it. And he grew up knowing how to change an oil, knowing how to change a tire, knowing how to do drywall in a house, knowing how to do a little plumbing here and there to stop the leaks and so forth. But ask a kid today, hey, can you change a tire? I don't know if they can.
I'll never. When I was moving from the Midwest after college to Tucson, was my first stop. I'll never forget my dad taking me. He says, "All right, come here." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "I'm about to show you something." Him showing me how to change a tire, then making me do it. I kid you not. It was years later. I'm driving when I was working in Vegas, driving from Bullhead City back to Vegas. Sun's going down. Next thing you know, I look at my thing, tire thing just goes down, 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 down. I pull into a gas station. I got a flat. I changed my tire. And it's like, thank you. It's like you don't realize how important some of that stuff actually is.
Yeah. Yeah. And you run into people all the time. I think back on, being a resident assistant, I had a whole floor of freshmen, men and women who you have no idea who they are, and I hope to goodness when it's all said and done that I've been a positive influence for individuals and specifically for men who are trying to find their way.
And I think I've had this talk with other people too. It can apply to women as well, but how many people go through life not only not knowing who they are, but not even knowing to explore that, you know what I mean? Like, cause you're so conditioned by what you grew up in, there's no other way of life.
Sure.
And it's like, and this kind of ties it in. We're talking about meeting other people, traveling to other places, having different experiences. That's how you find out who you are, because you figure out what's your bag and what's not. You may try something, and go, oh yeah, not for me.
Yeah.
I try something. Oh, I like it.
I say to young guys all the time, like, you're in your 20s, you're coming up and I say, look, you don't have to know right now. You're at a point where you should be just exploring. How do you know that you're going to like something if you don't do a few different things? You know what I mean? Maybe you go into retail and you realize, I love retail, man. I love working. I love helping people, blah, blah, blah. Maybe that's your thing, but you're not going to know that until you do it. So you got to almost be willing to put yourself out there and be a little vulnerable in the world, and then know that you're on your journey and learning as you go along. Those things that we learn during our first jobs are the things that that's going to be our work ethic for the rest of our lives.
100%. At the time when you're doing it, you're like, man, I don't want to be doing this. And you have an attitude and this, that, and the other. But then you realize, I'm like, because I did those things, when you do get into things you like more, you have such a greater appreciation for what you're doing. And it's pivotal.
It is. I think it is. I think it's pivotal. And I think that, if I could say anything to the men out there that are listening, I'll say to you, just acknowledge your male friend. He might be smiling, maybe he's not doing well, but just check in on him and try to lift him up a little bit, because in the end, you're only as good as the people that surround you. You're only as good as your what you can offer your family, what you can offer your friends, and vice versa. So make sure you surround yourself with people that want to lift you up and not pull you down.
Absolutely. Well, I was going to ask you what your closing statement would be. Of like, that's pretty good.
Wow, that was great.
Well, this has been a phenomenal conversation. Long time coming. We're going to have several more. But thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for making the time. Is there anything that you want to leave us with? It can be anything.
Yes, I do. I want to leave you with two things. Number one, you can get my book on Amazon. What Men Do Wrong from Dressing to Grooming on Amazon. It's a short book. It's small, so it's a quick and it's an easy read. And then I just want to say thank you for having these conversations and being willing to put yourself out there, because when we do anything in the media world or in the entertainment world, you're really opening yourself up to a lot of people, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you believing that I have what it takes to be on the Sam Dever podcast and I have something to offer. So thank you.
Oh my gosh, that warms my heart. And thank you. The same. I admire you. I respect you. I look up to you. I'm so grateful. And I know you can say the same, meeting as many people as you have, but I'm so grateful to have amazing human beings in my life. And you're one of those people. I'm just so, even as we've been doing this podcast, I'm like, God, this guy's so cool. You look good.
No one says that a lot, by the way.
Okay, you look good though, by the way. You look good. You're a cool dude. You're nothing but good energy. You're inspirational. I know I'll leave this inspired. If people would like to follow you,
yes,
on social or anything, where should they go?
It's crazy. I don't do a lot of it. As I get old, I'm like, I just want to make some face-to-face contacts. But people can reach out, of course. But on Instagram and on Twitter, I am Will the Show. And then on Facebook, I'm Will Edwards, the black guy, hugging my wife, I think, in the picture, just in case you don't know. Yeah, man, I don't post as much as I used to, and it's mostly about hunger relief and what we're doing at the food bank. But if anybody has a question or want to chat, and just reach out.
Awesome.
I'm always open.
Always open, baby. And if you want, can we take a quick screenshot photo right now?
Man, this is terrible. Okay, great. Stop.
If not, I'm going to screen grab it anyway. 1, 2, 3. One. Hold on. 1, 2. Got it. My friend, thank you so much for doing this. I'm so glad that you're rocking and rolling as always. You have so many things going on. Again, What Men Do Wrong from Dressing to Grooming. Get it on Amazon. Highly recommend. And my friend, I cannot wait to see you again in person in Las Vegas. Hopefully sooner than later.
Let's do it. Sooner, hopefully.
Sounds good, my friend. Well, you take care of yourself, and we will be talking to each other soon.
Thank you again.
Thank you, my friend. Bye.
Bye.